I'm trying to get this second and it's recording. Okay, good.
All right?
Yep.
All right, everybody's got a center line in. I want you to start paying attention to certain things that are on this. Obviously, the milk sack at the back, what do you call that? Anybody know what that's called?
Udder?
The whole thing is called an udder?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole thing.
And anyway, the
Teats.
teats are sitting out. And so we got to keep them.
Which is up and down now.
Either way.
Like that?
Like that. That's up and down.
Okay.
All right, and also coming out the back, notice there's a tail there. We got to keep the tail, and it's just on the one side, obviously. So now look at the front part here, and we're going to see that here's the udder at the back. Can you see how it hangs down? But in the front, we got a whole bunch of material we can take out. And like you consider the shape of the belly, excluding those hip bones that are at the back, and you see how that comes around. So I like to have the bottom bigger, in other words, make it more of a pear shape, so that it's more of that shape for the belly. That gives it a little bit more emphasis, but it can be either or. And of course in the front we've got the bell. So going back to the side view, and let's look at the carving together. Okay. There. You can see that in order to accommodate the bell, we have all this material in the front here that's not required. But the front hip has to come up. So we're going to bring that up like that and remove this piece in here. Of course, it happens on both sides, doesn't it? Now we'll work on the back a little bit here. We're going to tentatively draw in this tail. See this part? Can you see that? This part right here, that's the tail. That's this tail coming around here. So here it comes around and down and up here and around. So we got to make sure we save that. That means therefore that we can remove a bit on the top and a bit on the bottom in order to make that stand out. So I would make a V-tool across that, leave lots of space because we can shape that later. Notice the shape of the back of the leg. The udder kicks out here, but there's a definite curve, and that starts here. That curve comes up to and just above the teeth there. And so we can get that shape started there. And then there's a joint, and then there's a curvature coming down, and the curvature starts up here. See where the cutout is? So we can establish the back shape of the leg just by looking at the diagram and the cutout together. Can you see what I'm getting at there? So then, moving forward, we can create the front part of the leg as well. And it's up here. And it's curved. And then another curve comes up like A. So we got to get rid of a bit of material in here. Keeping in mind that that teat is going to sit out as far as we can possibly make it, because we want to make it look like she's really overloaded.
You said to cut out that tail part, so is that going to take those lines out and put them back in? Is that what we're doing?
After a while we'll put them back in, but I don't want you to lose the tail.
No.
Okay? There's a lot of material has to take it out of there. It has to be set back in quite a ways.
The front of the tail go with even with the leg?
Right?
At the end of the tail?
Yeah, just bring it up to the end of the, yep. And you can give that tail whatever shape you want. I mean, it doesn't have to be the shape that's in the diagram. I mean, it can sweep up and down, it could come down and around, it could be whatever. Might be the easiest just to stay with the diagram. Okay, and then the front, if you notice the front, it kind of just goes into the body. So we're just going to leave that piece like that. That front foot is going to be the same. So it's the same on the other side with the exception that there's no tail at the back. Unless he has it, unless it's a two-tailed cow. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. I've heard of a two-headed cow before. All right, let's look at the front view here. What we got to do is we got to get rid of a whack of wood in the front area. And if I can get this situated, in this area right here. But you see how close those heels are together? That's how close we got it. So it's narrower than the bell, than that hunk I've left for the bell. It's narrower. So we're gonna remove that in the process, and it's going to go back all the way in to the inside there. And you're having exactly the same situation on the back, so you can transfer that. If you turn your carving upside down, now you can transfer that down, and the same thing happened at the back. The only difference is here we've got to accommodate the udder, so we're not going to go up to the chest. We're only going to go up to the udder at the back. So if I turn this upside down, you'll see what I mean. There we go. So the udder stays, so we can't go any higher than there. You get what I'm getting at?
Yep.
To remove that hunk of wood there. So we okay with all that?
That's what you keep it.
All right, so now just want to make you aware of a couple of things, and that is from the diagram you can see that the outside of the legs are inside the belly, right? So there's a lot of material that has to still come out of there, and that's down here. So if you look at my finished one, or partially finished one, can you see how much material is taken out of here? So the material is really taken off the inside first and then establish the outside shape. Are you with me on that? So don't mess around with the legs too much at this point in time. Let's just start getting rid of some of the material. So let's remember what you do to one side, you do to the other side.
Yeah. This is a great work. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start getting rid of some material.
What you said in mind.
This particular wood cut out pretty nice. Well, so did the last one for that matter, but this is a lighter color wood, nice creamy color. Take it right into the belt. Is that showing any better from this side?
Yeah.
This is that new wood I got from Minnesota. I don't think it's quite as good as the one I got the previous year, but it's what we got. Okay, so that's that part done. Use my trusty V tool to establish the,
Let me see the part that you took off.
those humps right there. See, those were there to accommodate the feet. So I just
Why
curved
are we, what are you taking off here, this part or the middle?
in the middle.
And what's this gonna
Oh,
represent?
that is part of this. It's gonna come off too.
Okay, all right.
All right. I don't want to lose my tail. That tail can sit out the furthest. Actually, I guess you could make it sit way out and not have to touch the body at all.
I'm gonna stop it right here, I think I'm gonna have one out of the way. I think I should have left with that other guy.
Well, when he showed up, he didn't have any tools. I knew that
Like this, like this.
that was a mistake. There's no point in him.
The only reason you're staying is because you got tools. That's what Brian's trying to tell you.
We got this part.
So leave that, see where I'm carving on the back here, make sure you leave the udder. I mean, we gotta start to go in there, but
That part both sides will be-
leave the udder. If you have difficulty trying to visualize the other side of the diagram here, go up to the window and trace the leg and everything on the other side. And some people have a lot of difficulty transferring from one side to the other, and so don't be afraid to go up to the window and transfer it over and get the other side.
I got that, that's okay?
Yeah. It's a hip on the front, so. Bring it in like that round shape.
Okay, what's the next one after that?
I'm just trying to establish the back leg a little bit, give that shape. Then we'll keep the tail and mark and
Okay.
put it in.
Yeah, they moved it out.
were telling about that insurance policy. We never heard the end of the story, so what's the verdict?
No verdict yet. I refuse to sign the contract. So, I could be fired,
Me too.
yeah. Well, I don't suppose we're the only people involved. Can you imagine somebody teaching bridge that has to have a $2 million contract or insurance policy?
Some of these exercises,
Right, well, most of
90%
it,
of the items in the guide are exercise classes.
well, and likely in fairness, my experience with the exercise people, they teach in other places, so they likely have got some sort of an insurance policy. So basically, all we're doing here, folks, is we're just establishing some parameters. We'll be working away at in more detail afterward. Now, when I was at home, when I did this the last time, I took and I run a saw cut through here, through the feet here. And you just have to be awful careful when you start working with a saw, because that extra little 1 or 2 swipes can put you a little bit too deep. So we don't have a saw here today, so. If I get a pen, that'd show up better.
I like this a lot better before we had all this high class technology. Where about, is this coming out?
Yeah, the question here is, can you see this block here? This block right in here?
Yeah.
This block here has to come out as well, because that's the bell. That's not down
Well, why
at the
have we
feet.
marked it just small?
Because in order to get through the center. Let's do it a different way. There seems to be a bit of confusion here. Let's do it another way. Let's mark in the feet. So like, can you see the feet there?
Yeah.
Let's mark in the feet.
And what's not feet comes out.
What's not feet comes out. But that's just at the bottom. Be careful. You take a look at your diagram and you can see that the footprint is bigger than the rest of the legs. The legs are kind of spindly. So try and, like if you were a Rodney, for instance, you would make up this pattern right here and then you'd sit it on each one and they'd be all the same. I'm not as exact. That's what happens when you're a bird carver.
Carving all those feathers.
Yep. That pen shows up a little bit better, doesn't it? Okay. Can I go ahead and cut here?
myself down with you, Rod, can I sue for $1 million now with this new rule?
Only if we share.
I'll give you a couple thousand.
What? A couple thousand? You're gonna sue me?
For $1 million, I'm gonna give you a couple thousand for, you'll probably have to go to court, that will be cash.
That's what I would plead. We have no choice in who we take.
Be nice now, I didn't get to be nasty. Cheap, but not nasty.
Okay, there,
I think they should get everybody sign a waiver.
But we do already. We do,
Yeah.
yeah, but not for the instructor.
Yeah.
All right, so take the, to remove the wood on the bottom here, a quick and dirty way of doing that is, remember, it's very hard to cut across the grain like that. But if you take it and you come down the side and you start removing wood this way, it's not too bad. You're coming up on an angle. All right. You with me on that? All right, I get it out of on my lap. I work better on my lap. Nothing is impossible. The impossible just takes a little bit longer.
So for the front feet, can we go right up to the bell? With that slot?
Yep. Just let me clean this up a bit and I can show you. There you go.
Okay.
Charles is okay. He just away today. Is that the deal?
He had to take his wife into town for a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
See why you use the saw.
Well, I'm always in favor of doing things the easiest way possible, so it's not as if you're cheating using a saw, it's just another method. Trying to do it easy.
There we go. Okay.
That's the line he's putting in there. But whenever he's going to do this here, that point there, you could put this, like this here.
So what happens here is, you see this, you see this cut here, that obviously goes all the way through. Well, that's the bottom of the udder. So that then when you turn it up and you start removing the wood, you end up into that cut. See, that curved cut is in here all the way through the, so when you start eliminating the wood between the feet, then you get right down to that bottom part of the udder. Okay. Now, Tom, is there a way to stop and turn this on and off? Or?
Push stop.
He's on the upper left, or upper right, sorry.
Oh, I see, up here. So I just pressed it, and so that stopped the recording too?
Try and see what it says.
Did that stop it? Yeah, I heard the beep.
Just tell us what you're doing.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, we're going to work on the center line at the top, and in fact, that's going to be his backbone, isn't it? So if that's the center line there, then he's got to have a width to his center line. So we're going to come down on both sides of that, out say about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And that's going to be our high point. That's going to be our high point, so that coming away from there, in order to create the belly down below here, that's going to come down. Remember I said I like a kind of a pear shape, but it can be a complete round as well. And you can start shaping that any time and getting rid of this material. Just kind of visualize where a little bit below the halfway point on the body, that's going to be, oops, sorry, a little bit halfway down here, that's going to be the high point on the side of the belly. So you're going to taper it up and taper it down. Okay? So it's going to be rounded up with a bit of a hollow in here so that backbone sticks out. So, and then rounded right around to the center point here. So that whole section in there can get the roundness going. Make sense? So I would work from the center line up and from the center line down to remove the wood.
So you're leaving the legs exactly the way they are so we don't touch them?
Yeah, don't mess around with the legs. Yeah, don't mess. Yeah. You don't want to lose your legs. The legs are going to be knocked in. If you take a look at that diagram on page 37, you can see where the legs are knocked inside the body. But the body is already round, isn't it? You get the round shape of the body and then you've got to work that in. But just in that section from there to there is where you got to work. Okay? Alright, I'll shut this off again. Okay. So there's what it looks like when I've got one side done, and you notice that there's a good backbone in there, and all I did was I took this tool here, I'm recording right now, and I came in there and I just took it out like that in order to create the backbone. So you can see there's the difference, one side, the other side's not even touched. Oh. I just got the belly rounded, left the center line there. I can always play around with that later on. Okay, I'll pass this around. There we go. Let's start working on a leg. If you take a look at your diagram here, you can see I'm going to work on this front leg here. And if you can see the shape of that leg starts off at the bell. on the inside and comes down, a little bit of a knuckle, and then comes out for the heel. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bit of a sweep in there. And so I've drawn that little sweep on there, right there. So then you can see the outside of the leg, it comes in, and then we have to form a hip in here, and that's not very well defined in the diagram. As you see up here, it's not very well defined up here at all. I ended up having to guesstimate how that should go up on the top half, but you can see how I've created the shape. Let's see, get this turned the right way. There. See how I just created the shape? So on the outside here, I've drawn on that shape. So we're going to remove all this wood on the outside here and this piece on the inside here. Straight back. Straight back. Don't try and give it any shape. Straight back. That's why we created the belly first, because now we've got to make the leg fit into the belly. We knew where the belly was. Anybody else still looking at that? Okay with that?
Just turn it sideways again once.
Sure. So what I use is this big number 5 gouge, 3/4 inch, 20 millimeter. And I use it upside down and work it up like this. And that gives me the round shape as I go up, and it still allows me to remove the wood. Okay? Okay, so by giving it that simple shape there, you've already started to give that leg some definition. And so you've got more or less a shape one way and a shape the other way. You got a two-dimensional carving at that stage. Still got lots to remove, obviously, to get the shape coming down in here to create that shape, but it'll come in time. Okay, I'll pass this around so you have a look at it. Alright, so here we are. We've got both legs roughed out. So now we're going to work on the bell, because in order to work on the rest of the body, we have to get this bell shape. So I'm going to draw that on a little bit narrower than what I've got as a rough out here. Comes up and then curves in. Comes up and then curves in. And just a gentle curve comes in. That show up. Okay. Try and get it symmetrical here. I'm not quite symmetrical, but so then what happens above that is we've got a collar, and that's critical that we get that collar established, because that's where his head is going to go. So make it plenty big. And what we're after here is, doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect circle, but get it close to being a circle.
Is that the outside of the collar?
That is the outside of the collar. And it's roughly the width of the bell. If you look at your diagram here, you can see that it is roughly the width of the outside of the bell. And they've created a kind of an oval in here for the opening. I found that the circle works the best because I can drill a hole and turn it. Okay? So we'll just do that, all right? I'll stop this. Okay, so there is the color and the bell kind of established. So if you look at it from the side on, we've still got big hunks here for the front hip, front shoulder, I guess. But it's cut in as far back as the notch that's in the rough out. So when that was cut out, this little notch here is the top part of the collar. Make sense?